Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and today doing a Spirit of the Pharaoh deck profile. So I'm really excited for you guys because this is actually suggested to me by one of my patrons, Izzy. And this deck is a really amazing deck that summons out a crazy old school boss monster, Spirit of the Pharaoh, which can just swarm the field with all sorts of different zombie monsters when it's summoned. I'm also playing a zombie world package in this deck, which is really helpful to back up your Spirit of the Pharaoh to go in for some crazy zombie plays. So, without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell on there so you can become part of Notification Squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards, like getting your name in the description of every single video, getting a signed card in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your Patreon, along with test hands. And definitely give Izzy some love down in the comments down below for suggesting such an awesome deck. So let's get straight on into this one, guys. So first off, we're playing a single copy of Spirit of the Pharaoh. Since this card can be special summoned off the first sarcophagus, we're only playing a single copy of this card, but it has the ability, this card cannot be normal summoned or set. This card cannot be special summoned except by the effect of the first sarcophagus. And when this card is special summoned successfully, then you can special summon up to 4 level 2 or lower zombie type normal monsters from your graveyard, which is a really awesome effect that you can just swarm the field with all sorts of powerful zombie monsters to go in for some crazy awesome plays, like going in for link monsters or even XZ monsters with those level 2 zombies that you summon to your field. We then play 2 copies of Doom King Baller Draw. Doom King Baller Draw is always a great boss monster for any zombie deck that plays zombie world because it has the ability that during the standby phase, if a face-up card is in the field spell zone and this card is in the graveyard, you can special summon this card in defense position to your side of the field, and you can only use each effect this card once per turn. That is a really awesome effect that you can just bring this card back during every single standby phase, during yours and your opponent's standby phase, because you can just link it away and then bring it back on the following turn, which is really good. It also has the ability that once per chain, when a zombie monster except Doom King Baller Draw activates this effect, except during the damage step, quick effect, you can apply one of these effects, but not in the same chain. You can get them both in the same turn, but not in the same chain. And you can't apply the same effect again for the rest of the turn. You can either negate the effect or banish a monster from the field or grave, which is a really good effect to be able to just get rid of cards off the field or in the graveyard, while also having a walking negate that can keep coming back over and over again. We then play a single copy of Banshee. Banshee is here because you can banish it to be able to get to your copy of Zombie World, which is a really powerful effect. One is totally fine for this build. You can play 2 copies of it, but I feel like 1 is totally fine. We then play 2 copies of Glow Up Bloom. Glow Up Bloom is really good because if Zombie World is on the field, you can banish this card from the graveyard to be able to special summon out your copy of Doom King Baller Draw, which is a really awesome effect, but it does lock you into zombies for the rest of the turn, which is not that big of a deal for this deck because usually all you're summoning is zombies anyways. We play a single copy of Gozuki. Gozuki is really good as a one-of because it is a walking Foolish Burial, because during your main phase, you can send a zombie monster from your deck to the graveyard, and if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can banish a zombie monster from your graveyard except this card to special summon a zombie monster from your hand, which is very, very good for this deck, especially if you have Doom King Baller Draw already in your hand or a really powerful zombie monster that you want to get on the field. We then play 3 copies of Unizombie. Unizombie is a crazy powerful starter for the deck that has the ability that you can target a face-up monster on the field, discard a card, and then if you do, increase the target's level by 1. And you can also target 1 face-up monster on the field, and then you can send a zombie monster from the deck, and if you do, increase that target's level by 1. And you can use both effects of this card per turn, which is really good that you can get cards like Banshee or Glow Up Bloom or even your copy of Doom King or your level 2 zombie monsters that you're playing in the deck into the graveyard with this card's effect, which is insanely good. We then play 2 copies of Shiranui Solitaire. This card has the ability that you can tribute this card and then special summon out a zombie tuner monster that has 0 defense, which is our copies of Unizombie because they have 0 defense points, which is going to be the main target. This is basically number 4 and number 5 of your Unizombie that you're playing in this deck. We then play a single copy of Mizuki. Mizuki is really good because you can banish it from the graveyard, target a zombie monster in the grave, and special summon it, which is a really good effect to get the exact zombie monster that you want back on your side of the field. And then we play a single copy of Plague Spreader Zombie as well, because this card is a really good tuner monster that can special summon itself back to your side of the field to be able to go in for all sorts of different plays. For the normal zombie monsters we're playing in the deck, we're playing a super old school zombie monster, and that's going to be 3 copies of Clown Zombie. This card is a really awesome card because it's actually used by Bones during the original Yu-Gi-Oh series, but this card is actually the most powerful level 2 normal zombie monster that we have in the entire game, sitting at 1350, so this is the best target to summon off of Spirit of the Pharaoh. We then play 3 copies of Pharaoh's Servant because it's a dark monster that you can actually summon off your copy of Spirit of the Pharaoh. And the really cool nostalgic thing about this card is Pharaoh's Servant is actually one of the packs that was originally released in Yu-Gi-Oh! I believe it was pack number 4 that we ever got in the entire Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG, which is kind of cool. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to be playing a single copy of the second sarcophagus. You only need a single copy of this card because the first sarcophagus is going to put it on the field. The only effect of this card is this card can only be placed on the field by the effect of the first sarcophagus, but you need to play this card as a one-of to be able to summon out your copy of Spirit of the Pharaoh. We then play a single copy of the third sarcophagus. Same reason as the second sarcophagus. You put this card on your side of the field with the first sarcophagus, but it's very important for the deck to play at least one of each of these cards so that you can summon out Spirit of the Pharaoh. We then play 3 copies of Allure of Darkness so we can dig into the deck to get to the exact cards that we need to go in for our plays. This card is really, really good, which is why I'm playing so many different dark monsters in this deck so we can dig into the deck to grab out the first sarcophagus. We then play 3 copies of Super Poly. Super Poly is really good in any zombie deck because you can just fusion summon away your opponent's monsters when you have Zombie World on the field. To be able to get out a really powerful fusion monster is just amazing in this deck. You have some really good targets for this card, and it can out just about any monster in the game. We then play 3 copies of Unexpected Die. Unexpected Die basically turns all of your normal monsters in this deck into cyber dragons. So this card is a really good 3-of to be able to special summon out cards like your Pharaoh's Servant or even Clown Zombie to your field so you can go in for some really good plays. We then play 3 copies of Zombie World. Zombie World is really good and has always been a good card that has the ability that all monsters on the field and both players' graveyards become zombie monsters, and neither player can tribute summon monsters except zombie monsters. This card is really good in this deck because it just helps out with Doom King Baller Draw, it helps out with Glow Up Bloom, it helps out with Super Poly, giving you the ability to go in for cards like your Nether Soul Dragon with Super Poly is just really, really good. And it's overall just a fantastic field spell. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're going to be playing 3 copies of the first sarcophagus. This card is really old school and really, really cool. It has the ability that during each of your opponent's end phases, you place 1 card face up on your side of the field from your hand or deck in the order of the second sarcophagus and the third sarcophagus. And if one of the sarcophagi cards are removed from your side of the field, all of them are sent to the graveyard. And when you have all 3 of the sarcophagus on your side of the field, you can send all of them to the graveyard to special summon out Spirit of the Pharaoh from your hand or deck, which is just so amazing when you summon it out to your side of the field, swarm the field, and go in for some really awesome plays. We then play 3 copies of Rivalry of Warlords. This really helps you slow down the game a little bit because comboed with Zombie World, this card has the ability to basically lock down the opponent because each player can only control 1 type of monster, and you send all face-up monsters they control to the graveyard that are not that one type. So for example, if your opponent has a monster on the field and they're not playing zombies, it becomes a zombie with Zombie World so they can't summon anything else except for zombies because they already control a zombie monster, which is really cool with Rivalry to basically just lock down your opponent with Zombie World to slow down the game a little bit so you can summon out the Spirit of the Pharaoh and just go in for games. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're playing a single copy of number 45, Crucible Logos. Crucible Logos is actually a zombie monster, so you can summon it under Rivalry, which is really, really good. It takes 2 or more level 2 monsters to summon this card, and it's actually a really good rank 2. It has the ability that once per turn, you can detach a material from this card, and then target 1 other face-up card on the field, and then while this monster is face-up on the field, that target has its effects negated, and then while that target is on the field, cards with the same name as the target and their effects cannot be activated, which is a really awesome effect for this deck to be able to have to basically just lock down an entire card's name for this particular card. I really love number 45 in this deck. We then play a single copy of Sky Cavalry, which is just a really good Wanda in this deck to help us defend ourselves while we're going in for our Spirit of the Pharaoh. We then play a single copy of Double A Zeus. Double A Zeus is just a really good card for this deck to be able to go in for, to be able to board wipe the field. You just don't want to board wipe the field when you have your copies of your sarcophagus cards on the field, because that would be really bad. We then play a single copy of Access Code Talker because it's a really good boss monster for the deck. You can play Boral Sword if you want to instead of this card, but it's still a really good card to be able to summon in the deck to go in for game with. We play a single copy of Nightmare Unicorn because it can spin stuff. Ivy Masquerada because we can go in for our copy of Unicorn during our opponent's turn, which is really, really nice. One copy of Vampire Sucker because it works really well in just about every zombie deck. One copy of Needle Fiber because it's a really good card to summon this deck to get out your copies of your Plague Spreader Zombie or Glow Bloom to your side of the field. And it's just a really powerful card overall. One copy of Link Spider as well, since we are playing so many normal monsters in this deck. This card actually comes up where you can link into this card first, and then special summon out another one of your normal monsters from your hand, to then climb into a copy of, say, your Vampire Sucker instead. A copy of Link Rebo. This is here for your copy of your Glow Up Balloon to be able to link it away to get that play off to summon out Doom King while you have your copy of Zombie World on the field. One copy of Red Eyes Zombie Dragon. This card is really good in the extra deck as well because it gets absolutely massive on your side of the field, and it's just a really, really good card. One copy of Baron de Fleur. Baron de Fleur is a good card for this deck. You don't have to play it in this particular build, but it's super easy to summon, especially with Needle Fiber and Baller Drop, because during your opponent's turn, you can special summon Baller Drop back from the graveyard, leave your copy of Needle Fiber on the field, summon Formula Synchron, draw a card, and then summon Baron de Fleur using Formula Synchron and your copy of your Doom King, which is really good. We then play for our Super Poly targets a single copy of Starving Venom for dark monsters and a single copy of Nether Soul Dragon, because you can use zombie monsters that are on the field to fusion summon into this card that your opponent controls when you use Super Poly, which is really, really cool. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. It's a really fun deck to be able to play with. If you guys have never played with Zombie World before, you definitely should. It's super fun. It's really amazing to be able to summon out all sorts of different zombie monsters to your field, especially summoning out the Spirit of the Pharaoh, which is just such a cool old school boss monster. Hopefully we get a retrain of this card soon. It's just a really cool card. I would love to see retrains of the sarcophagus cards to summon out this card to your field, or even some really good normal zombie monsters that are level 2 that have a little bit more attack points than Clown Zombie, but I really like playing that old school nostalgic monster. So that's it for this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can become part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.